I went to see a film last night. It's quite simply called After. Poetry is the end of silence, or poetry destroys silence. And it was about the Holocaust. Apparently, it's 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz this week. And it was beautiful. It was an amazing piece of work, a collage really of music and film and performances by actors and poets of the material. Some of the material to me was more successful than others. I'm a big apostle of poetry. I don't seem to have the same relationship that many people do to it, because I'm so bound up with the rhythm of it and the performance of it rather than the reading of it. But anyway, they did a remarkable job, and it's incredibly moving. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, vis-a-vis where we are in the world right now, that all the players were Jewish, I believe. A wonderful older poet, writer, performer. And he said some very profound. But I was watching him and hearing him speak, and I know the facts of what happened, and it still runs up on me so big and so heavy that how does one get around that? How does one forgive that kind of behavior? And I share in it a little bit as an Armenian, as a quarter Armenian, with very little attachment to Armenia. I don't know the language. I've barely been there. That side of my family, my father's side of my family, was very removed from me. I hung out with them a little bit. There was a wedding in the 80s, and there was an uncle, one of the patriarchs of the family, who was, it was a marvelous chap. And he described to me how he was tied by the Turks, but roped together, which is what they did, and then they would rope a whole village together, and then they would throw them in the river, probably the Tigris, and they'd drown. And because he was tiny and at the end of the line, the rope came loose, and he was, and he, as his story was, he was rescued by Kurds who otherwise have, let's say an interesting reputation. They fascinate me. I think they're quite a bunch. But then that's me. But that they saved his life and they brought him up. But so anyway, so this face to face by these deeply, deeply civilized performers in this film, confronted by that kind of atrocity. And I did, and I do still think that whatever variations of the human condition are expressed in Israel and in Zionism, I just feel that, if anybody had a right to that sense of destiny and self, they do. I find the rest of it very fake. I find the Christian Zionism and all that, all that promised land, New Jerusalem stuff, really, really revolting. It doesn't justify you visiting 2 other continents and dismissing the populations who are there. It's not a land without a people. It's a land with very, very much, lots and lots of people, and with lots and lots of different languages and cultures and civilizations. It's not the European, the Eurasian blob, Christianity, Hindu, Islam. You know what I mean? It's like it's just the Native American, the indigenous people to the Americas should be endlessly fascinating and should be studied and asked, and we should really modify our lives by that lesson, I feel. Us of the West, who are busy destroying the planet. What else is there? Oh yeah, and I was on Facebook. It's such a mistake. But a very good friend of mine posted something about the hearings for the people that Trump has nominated for his various henchmen or henchwomen. And I've watched a bunch of these over the years, and I find them incredibly repugnant. It doesn't matter whose side, who's on what side. This smug inquisition that sits up there, and then they practice this sort of answer the question, Senator. Is it a yes or no answer? Answer the question. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to move on because I'm out of time. It's like, no, if you want a democracy, have one. Your excuse cannot be, oh, I've run out of time. Take the time. We're going to deal with the Hegseths and the RFKs and all the rest of it. It's the process that is so uncivilized. That's a good word for it. It's childish. It's petty. It's bullying. And I've often watched and sat, and I wanted them to take Brett Kavanaugh to pieces. I really did, and I thought they did. And I was stunned. That marvelous woman who he abused, who didn't engage in that kind of thing. She told an extraordinary. She related what happened to her, and still these creatures go ahead and confirm him. So whatever it is that you're whatever these institutions that you're so keen on saying, this democracy was threatened, and I need to see evidence of this democracy, and I don't see it as I understand a democracy. And the primary feature of a democracy is where you persuade, you discuss, you clarify, you make your position clear in ways that other people might listen to it. The voter will listen to it and go, oh, I see. Instead of what we have is this kind of sectarian thing where everybody that Trump nominates has got to be a demon. And however we go about humiliating and not allowing them to answer the questions is good because the ends justify the means, and then the reverse, the other way. And I maybe I'm misremembering. I seem to remember that when these things occurred and the Democrats were cross-examining the Republican nominees, it seemed to be that they were more reasonable, that they weren't playing using these bullying tactics. And this Hegseth thing, I don't know anything about the guy, but the notion that he drinks too much and he's an adulterer, that has never in the history of the world stopped somebody being a Julius Caesar, Winston Churchill. It looks like a party of puritanical prudes saying, you did this and you did that. And I don't do what he did. Right? I'm not an adulterer. Lots of those people are. And this sort of Puritanism, this view of the world, puritanical, doesn't help. Ask him about his views on policy. Get him to state what his views on policy, because we know what the Democratic view is Now it's been exposed what the Democratic view is on, he's Secretary of Defense. We know what their view is on war. And sorry, honey, it don't stand up for me. It doesn't. If Trump is transactional, I wish that more people were transactional. Not because I like him or agree with him or anything like that, and he's probably, but ideology needs to be watched carefully. Because otherwise you end up with Puritans going after devils. And that's what our foreign policy is right now. Okay.